Okay. I call to order the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners formal session for August 10th, 2023. It is 10:06 in the morning, and for those online, we apologize. We had some technical difficulties getting on right at 10. We will move to our flag salute. Ken, do you want to lead us in the flag salute, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item C is our calendar session. Commissioners, I think we just had the Willamette Workforce Partnership meeting next week. Other than that, is there anything else to add?
Nothing.
Anything else for calendar? No? Okay. Item D is public comment. This time period is reserved for public comment on any topic other than an agenda item, quasi judicial land use matter, or topic scheduled for a public hearing. So if you're in the audience and have a public comment, please come forward, or if you're online, please raise your virtual hand. Okay, hearing none. Department updates, there's nothing today. There's also nothing on the work session. Consent agenda, looks like we have several minutes to approve. And thank you to Nicole and Carolina for putting those together. That's quite a lengthy process. And then also some committee appointments. So I will move approval of the consent agenda. Is there further discussion?
None.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Great, thank you. Motion passes. Okay, item H is old business. There's nothing today. Item I, other business. I1 is consideration of approval to appoint 3 new members from the listed applicants to the Parks Advisory Board, each to a 4-year term to expire on August 10th of 2023. Is that right? That's not right.
That doesn't sound right. Unless it's for those positions. Be 4-year term, right?
27. Yeah, okay. Okay, so I will amend item I1 to read consideration of approval to appoint 3 new members from the listed applicants to the Parks Advisory Board, each to a 4-year term to expire on August 10th of 2027. And the applicants are Allison Rush Pettit, Anita Humley, Leslie Anderson, David Hayes, Amanda Melhoff, Omega Rodela Garces, I don't know. Garces, and Casey Hesacker. And just for a brief recap, we were looking at positions focused on the West Valley, in particular, people who are from the West Valley, to round out the Parks Advisory Board.
Correct.
Do I have a motion to for 3 of these members?
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to appoint Amanda Melhoff, Omega Garces, and Casey Hesacker to the Parks Board. Okay,
and those are, I believe those were the 3 from.
those are all 3 West Valley.
Yeah, okay.
Amanda's a nurse at Salem Hospital, and she lives really close to Blackwell Park, which is positive because that park is quite a ways out there. And so it's kind of cool to have somebody close by that they can keep an eye on it. Omega actually is on the Sheridan Parks and Rec, which is awesome.
Yes.
And Casey Hesacker, he's a firefighter for Portland Fire and lives out in Sheridan.
Okay.
So it's going to be 3 very well rounded board now, especially since we can get those 3 spots from the West Valley out there.
It'll be a full board.
Yep.
Yeah,
Full board 13. Yep.
great.
Wonderful.
Okay, so there's a motion for Amanda Melhoff, Omega Garces, and Casey Hesacker. Is there further discussion?
No.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Great, thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you.
And there's a meeting coming up
Next week.
next week?
I think it's next week.
Okay. So they will be hitting the ground running for sure.
So next meeting is August 16th, which is next Wednesday at 5:30, and it'll be at Public Works.
Great.
Good.
Okay. Item I2 is consideration of approval to update the Yamhill County local investment policy. And I want to thank our treasurer, Chris Bledsoe, for reviewing these documents. I believe this has to be done on an annual basis. She also brought these documents to LIAC, so we've all reviewed them and approved them previously as well. So I will move approval of item I2. Is there further discussion?
Done.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, same sign. Great. Motion passes. Thanks. I3, consideration of approval of consideration of approval of an agreement between Yamhill County Health and Human Services and the McMinnville School District to provide behavioral health counseling services for the 2023-24 school year in the not to exceed amount of $67,409.91.
Chair, I would move approval.
Okay. Is there further discussion?
None.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Great, motion passes. I4, consideration of approval of agreement number 180909 between Yamhill County Health and Human Services and the Oregon Department of Human Services for the Ticket to Work and Self-Sufficiency Program in the not to exceed amount of $60,000 retroactive to July 1st, 2023 through June 30th of 2025.
This is incentive payments to those who are on Social Security, disability, and Social Security to encourage them to move forward into employment. And the Social Security Administration has given the state permission to contract with the Ticket to Work program to provide them with some of the stipends to administer this program. So I would move approval.
And this is additional funding on top of what we already have and what we already do, is my understanding.
Yes, it's not replacing any of the other funding that
Mhm.
we get. This
Okay.
is currently we are getting money. It doesn't replace the money that we assist clients with to receive competitive employment. This is in addition to the current revenue.
Okay. Did you move approval?
Yes.
Okay. Is there further discussion?
None.
No.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Great, motion passes. Thank you. I5 is consideration of approval in the matter of an order authorizing an exemption from competitive bidding for a limited duration contract for correctional health care services with MedTrust LLC. And Colton prepared this order. This is basically a stopgap to allow for a seamless transition from WellPath to MedTrust. But we will be doing an RFP within the time frame of 12 months, is my understanding.
That's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
the need for the order stems from our current provider, WellPath LLC, announcing in May that they'd be ceasing operations in our jail and similarly sized jails in Oregon, and put us into a scramble to find
Yeah.
a replacement provider, which the sheriff's office fortunately was able to do in finding MedTrust LLC. So we've proposed a 12-month non-renewable contract with them as a stopgap so that we can do a formal RFP to find what, if any, other providers are out there.
And that would be after
Okay.
the year,
Right, within the,
after the year contract.
it was on its own. Yeah.
Calendar year or
12
year?
months.
12
Okay,
months.
12 months,
so,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, the 12.
Is that
about
pretty,
December.
is that a standard timeline, or when you do emergency orders, is it per statute that you have to?
No, there's no
Okay.
statutory requirement for the timeline.
Okay.
12 months is what we feel comfortable with,
Yeah.
we certainly will be able to put together and complete a process and then negotiate any contract, which can take time. Frankly, we just barely were able to negotiate the
Mhm.
MedTrust contract in the time that WellPath gave us.
And we did something similar when WellPath was first brought on board. We did a short-term contract with them. And then we did a solicitation, did an RFP. And then they ended up being the provider that was selected through the RFP. So it's a similar process that we're proposing to go through this time again.
Okay. Okay, well, I will move approval of I5. Is there further discussion or questions?
None.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. I6 is consideration of approval of a limited duration agreement between Yamhill County and MedTrust LLC for jail medical services effective August 27th of 2023 through August 26th of 2024 in the amount of $127,537.69 per month, maximum duration of 12 months, and subject to final review and approval of County Council's office. And I will move approval of item I6. Are there any questions or further discussion?
I just had a question, Chair, as far as the funding for this, the funding stream for our contracts for jail medical,
Jail budget.
it comes out of their budget.
It's
Yeah.
budgeted in the jail budget in 1041.
And it's
And-
my understanding there's not an increase. Or it's
Correct.
slight.
Correct. This full amount is going to be charged to in the jail budget. There is a small portion that I know they bill juvenile detention for some of those services, but otherwise, all of this, the vast majority of this is all going to be in the jail budget.
Already budgeted. Okay.
Slight increase.
Yeah, I
I
believe
wanna-
under the current contract with WellPath, it's up to 120,000 a month. So this would be a $7,000 increase.
And there was also a scheduled increase that had we stayed with WellPath, there was an increase expected, I think, in January or February of next year.
February.
Yeah. So this is, fortunately, this is in line with what we're currently spending. Hopefully,
Right.
when we go through the RFP, we'll be able to find a provider who can continue to provide services for around these same costs. But that's been one of the challenges. There are fewer providers in this area and the costs just continue to escalate.
Mhm.
So this was a very good intermediate step to make sure that services are still provided. And hopefully we'll get a positive response to the RFP.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Did I move approval? I think I did. Okay, any further discussion?
None.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. Great, thank you. Motion passes. And thank you, Colton, for working on this.
thanks, Colton.
And for the sheriff's team and your team for dealing with all the changes that happened very quickly. So,
Yeah, there's a few outstanding minor issues with this and I don't expect that there'll be any material changes, but that's why we asked the board to approve it subject to final review and approval. And if there is anything material that changes, obviously we'll bring it back to the board next week. But this will give Med Health the time they need to prepare for taking over services at the end of the month.
Okay, thank you.
okay, moving into public hearings. So item J1 is a second public hearing to discuss proposed amendments to the Yamhill County zoning ordinance YCZO in relation to the allowance of psilocybin crops in service centers in both EFU and AFU zones. Our first public hearing was held on July 13th of 2023. So this is after we had our first hearing. There were some amendments that were discussed. Do you want to maybe briefly go over the amendments that we had talked about there?
Sure. So before I start, it sounds like the actual drafted amendments didn't get posted until this morning. So it's entirely up to the board, but I don't see anybody from Friends here in the room or online. They were requesting copies of it, and I don't believe they got a copy. So it's entirely up to the board if you want to move this hearing over a week to give them a chance to review, or if you just want to proceed here today. Most of the amendments that came from the July 13th hearing were at Friends's request. So I did send a copy to Sid before I sent out the final version. So, and I believe he submitted a letter in support, although I don't know if that made it into the record. That did get it into the packet this morning too, as well. So yeah, I just wanted to preface before I go into it any further. So it's entirely up to the board if you want to give it another week or if you just want to proceed as is.
So the documents were posted this morning
They were.
and the amendments were sent to Friends prior,
I-
a draft.
I sent the draft to Sid just he was the one who requested the majority of the amendments. I wanted to make sure he was okay with them.
And that was prior to this morning.
That was prior to me sending it to the board when I sent out my email
Okay. 2 weeks
a
ago.
month ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, not quite a month ago. So it's up
Okay.
to the board if you want me to proceed or if you want to hold this over a week.
So, if memory serves, the only issue that we were sort of stuck on was the defining actively producing. And so did he accept that definition? in the amendment?
I don't believe I don't remember the exact. Did that letter of support make it into their packets?
I don't think it made it into ours.
Didn't make it into theirs. Okay. I don't know. And I don't want to, he did not object to the language before I sent it to you guys. I will say that. But I think he did sort of submit the letter with the belief that the language was what was proposed, since he didn't get a copy of it as the actual ordinance. I
So
know
the
that's all very
the letter was
confusing.
after the draft amendments were sent to him and the letter came back and,
He sent the letter once it was added to the agenda.
okay. And that was, did he see the draft amendments at that point?
He saw my original ones, but mine,
The revisions?
yes, yes.
Okay,
He did.
all right.
He didn't see the ordinance. He didn't see it in like formal form. It was, here's what I'm thinking. Tell me if you have any issues.
And there were none.
Not that he expressed to me.
Okay. That would be my only
Okay.
concern.
So the things that were changed, okay, so it looks like we did a couple things to, the requirements for this was all about service centers. All these additional amendments were about the service center pieces. Added language, and this was actually at the request of Mr. Lampman, who's here today if he wants to speak, but we added must be located on a lot that produces at least one psilocybin crop annually, and then we clarified that instead of actively producing, which I think is what the chair Bershauer was alluding to with if that was okayed by Sid. He did not object to me at the time. I've been out 2 weeks and I haven't made it through my emails yet. So if there's an objection in here, I hope he was able to get through to somebody because I have not seen one yet, but I still have about 200 emails to get through. So there's that. Located on licensed premises as defined by OAR 333. We added that also to the service center languages, and that's just to have consistency. with the language that's under the campground section. We updated the definition section, adding the same licensed premises requirements for service centers and clarifying that a permit does not authorize any other use. And so those were the things that changed from the July 13th hearing.
Okay, so I have his letter here. It's dated August 7th, so only 3 days ago. And it says, as of this writing, the draft ordinance language currently proposed for adoption is not in the publicly posted board packet or on the public hearings webpage. We assume there have been no changes from the draft circulated by Assistant County Counsel on July 17th. If this assumption is correct, this language represents an acceptable and legally compliant compromise, and we support its adoption. We appreciate the efforts involved.
And so I can confirm it's the same language, but it isn't great that it wasn't posted until today. So that if the board wants to just be extra cautious and hold it out a week so that now that it's posted, everyone has a chance to look at it, I would be fine with that.
I guess, if nothing has changed, we went through this extensively last time, so I feel like if nothing has changed, I don't want to have Jason have to come back. And friends, it seems like they're fine and they would have been here if they weren't, so. And we only received one piece of public testimony, I believe,
We got one email,
in support of it.
Oh, we did? Okay,
Mhm.
a public comment.
great.
So I think we're okay. We've been wrestling with this for a long time,
Okay, that's fine by me.
if that's acceptable to the board.
Yes, Chair.
Okay, so how do you want us to?
So we can open it up to public comment.
So we are in public comment.
Yeah, just go ahead and open up the public hearing.
Okay.
And then accept any comment.
All right, so I open up the second public hearing regarding our Yamhill County zoning ordinance in relation to psilocybin crops. If there's anyone here to offer public testimony, please come forward, or if you're online, raise your virtual hand. Okay, hearing none. Close hearing. And we can get these posted on the public hearing webpage.
I don't know if they're on the public hearing webpage. I'll ask Ken Friday. He controls that one, but it is on the board agenda packet currently. It was posted this morning.
Okay. Okay, and so now there is a consideration of the ordinance, correct?
Yes. So now we move on to actually adopting the ordinance. So
That is, you want me to read it?
yeah, so I recommended adopting it as an emergency. It's up to the board. But I can read it by title. Hearing no objection, but I am,
Okay, I just want to make sure
okay, I got it here.
we're clear. So this is consideration of approval in the matter of an ordinance amending the Yamhill County zoning code to clarify the allowance of psilocybin manufacturing and service centers within certain areas of unincorporated Yamhill County, declaring an emergency and setting the effective date.
Yes,
And we will read by title only, if that's okay.
unless there's any objection.
Okay.
Okay. In the matter of amending the Yamhill County zoning code to clarify the allowance of psilocybin manufacturing and service centers within certain areas of unincorporated Yamhill County, repealing ordinance 922, declaring an emergency and setting the effective date.
We have to read it twice.
Pause for effect. In the matter of amending the Yamhill County zoning code to clarify the allowance of psilocybin manufacturing and service centers within certain areas of unincorporated Yamhill County, repealing ordinance 922, declaring an emergency and setting the effective date.
Okay. So I will go ahead and move approval of the ordinance. Is there further discussion or questions?
Not to drag us out even longer, but back when this was before the planning commission, I voted for the most restrictive option. There was 3 options. The most restrictive was just to have it on recreational commercial zonings. That was before the cities put it to vote because you could put a 2-year moratorium on enacting these ordinances in the cities. Since then, McMinnville voted to put a 2-year moratorium on, which gave my reasoning no clout anymore, because before, if the city of McMinnville would have allowed to have the service centers within the city, there would be a lot of options to have somewhere to service the psilocybin. I really was not a fan of it having it on EFU just because it was not close to services. Being that there's not a lot of options now because there's a 2-year moratorium in McMinnville. I'm now okay with this, but still it's a concern for me that this is on farm ground and it is not close to service centers, especially when you start learning how the services are provided and what the clients have to go through when they're given the psilocybin. So I still would like to see in the future, if we can strive to have these closer to commercial zonings in the cities, I think it would still be better.
And then one of the arguments in favor of locating in these zones is because the very nature of the service itself. Some people argue that it is more beneficial to do so in a more quiet rural area.
Right. Which there's been, I'm torn on that also because of farm equipment. And I mean, there's some during, harvest season, there can be even, just the cannons alone in the vineyards would be.
Yeah.
So I'm still, I'm okay with it, but I still would just like to make sure that we try as hard as we can to, locate them within commercial zones within our cities.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, I think it's interesting because the 2-year moratorium, I believe, started in January. The clock was ticking in January. So the cities are going to have to be having these discussions fairly soon.
Yep.
And so I guess I just see this as everything will sort of balance out. But hopefully the lengthy process that we've been through, the things that we've learned from folks in the county will benefit them in some way. Hopefully they look to these discussions to help them, draw the boundaries and determine how these things will
And I
will
think
work.
with the psilocybin industry, it's going to be a very, very small impact. It's not like you're growing marijuana and somebody's coming before you to be like, hey, I want to, have a smokehouse on my farm, because that's kind of what this is. You're administering, a registered psilocybin drug, and, somebody could have that connection to that to, possibly do that on EFU, and I'm totally against that. So just want to make sure the psilocybin is going to be a small enough impact where it shouldn't be a problem, but it is concerning to me.
I want to thank the folks here Jason too, that just your insight and the process that we've been through, over a year now, I think. We've learned a lot from you in terms of how this can be used and sort of how this would play out in the county. It was a steep learning curve for us. So we appreciate your insight and your passion and just sticking with us on that. So, okay. I believe I moved approval. If there's no further discussion or questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Great. Thank you. Motion passes. And we set the effective date to today. Immediately. Thank you very much. Okay. So we're coming out of our public hearing and into announcements. Commissioners, any announcements? The fair was a huge success. I believe we had. Okay, I'll just let you talk about it.
Oh, no, that's fine. I was actually gonna leave the super good news to Gary, when he gives the update, but yes, it went very, very well. But what I am gonna tout is the youth livestock auction.
Oh, yeah, that
They
was-
set a record and they sold over $1 million in animals this year, which was
It was-
phenomenal.
Wow. I was
So,
there on Saturday and it was just the crowd of
Oh, yeah.
people around that place.
It was great. Weather was
energy.
fantastic.
Mhm.
No, it went well. Now, for the fair, there's concerns and it's parking and I've had multiple texts Friday and Saturday. Wednesday and Thursday wasn't too bad, but for sure Friday and Saturday, parking was atrocious.
Mhm.
It always is. We knew it was going to be a problem. And when they built those apartments across the street is pretty much when it started us having issues. And then as the fair becomes more and more popular, which we want to stay with that momentum, we need to address our parking issues that we have.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be having conversations, I think, in the next few months, of just options that we have, so we can address that.
Yeah.
But that is
I
our
definitely
biggest
heard
problem.
that feedback and then Representative Anna Sharp was on her way to the fair trying to park and couldn't park, so she left. And so we don't want that kind of thing happening. And I don't remember there was a free shuttle from
Free shuttle
McMinnville
from
High
McMinnville.
School.
Needs to be advertised a little bit better.
I didn't see any signage at all, so
Yep.
people didn't know
That
that
was
they
me
could
being
go.
kind.
Yeah.
Needs to be advertised for
Yeah.
sure. But still, even with that shuttle, imagine yourself watching a concert. If you're not within the gated area or the fenced area of seating, you're bringing your own chairs, your own
Right.
equipment.
And having
There's a
all that.
lot to that. Now you're packing all that stuff on a bus and then at 10 o'clock at night, getting it all back on a bus again
Yeah.
or 11 o'clock or whatever,
Yeah.
and headed back to McMinnville.
Yeah, it's tough.
We need to figure some stuff out here.
Mhm.
Because I want to keep the momentum and the talk about the fair is moving in the right direction. Everybody enjoys it. There's a lot of good things going on. We're expanding stuff that we have within it. And we need to maximize that. And the good news about Anna not finding a parking spot is that I believe that we might be able to now, not that we wouldn't be able to have conversations before, but now strike while iron's hot. Let's have these conversations. Let's get together with our state reps, our senators. Let's start figuring out funding for revamping the fairgrounds, moving whatever it may be. Let's hammer down on our master plan, get all that done, and see if we can't come up with a solution sooner than later.
I agree. Other than that, it was fantastic.
It was
It was
phenomenal.
wonderful.
Yes.
And a shout out to all of the kids and the leaders and 4-H and FFA for the discipline it takes in those youth programs. I firmly believe if we could just get those expanded into make them available to kids who wouldn't normally have any access or any knowledge of that, it would be a game changer in a lot of those kids' lives. And the other thing is I want to thank Gary Wertz for being so agreeable to, I had asked him, can we have booths set up or tables where our community partners and our county departments can let folks know what we do?
Yeah.
And to see our staff out there in the heat every day, Wednesday and Thursday, just really explaining to people what all we do. And I also know that the community partners appreciated being able to share what they do. And they do a wonderful job. So Gary, as always, Mr. Fair.
He's in his element.
That and so YCAP. Last year, there was donations of 8 hogs, which Carlton Meat Pack in Carlton, they donate the cut and wrap for YCAP. So if you buy an animal, you can donate it instead of either keeping it for yourself and having it cut and wrapped or turning it back, which then the slaughterhouse would just buy it at the floor price. You can donate it at the floor price. So basically the difference is for hogs, it was a 70 cents per pound floor price. So the buyer would then just eat that 70 cents, donate it. Carlton Pack would cut it and then donate it back to YCAP. Last year, there was 8 of those hogs. this year 23.
Wow.
So YCAP is super excited right now.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's great.
it turned out phenomenal.
Mary would keep them as a pet. She wouldn't do any of that.
I'll make eye contact with you.
He's talking to me right now.
We can't take them all home.
We can bring him. We need a house dog. A white house dog or pig. And donkey. Okay. Oh. Did we just know, did that just happen or did I miss that? Okay. Well, so Catherine, why don't we bring her on and I can just let her know what happened? Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. So
Okay.
we're actually past the public hearing.
I know. I was trying to get in and I couldn't make the Zoom link work. And so I called county council and she made the connection. But while we were struggling with it, the whole matter proceeded and if I've missed my opportunity, I regret it. But I would like to convey, Sid sent his letter because he couldn't see the actual language and he's out of town. So I have been trying to see the actual language. I've made 2 calls to county council leading up to this time, and I still haven't seen the language. And I am very sorry that you did not take Jody up on her offer to push it forward a week, because I believe, although I don't distrust Jody. She says Sid's Yamhill County's, Friends of Yamhill County's concerns have been addressed. I just think it is a very bad matter of public policy and disclosure to act on an ordinance when the information is not in the public domain. So I understand I've missed my opportunity and
So Mrs. Jernstead, so we received a letter on August 7th from Mr. Friedman that says that he had seen the proposed amendments and those were fine. And nothing has changed in terms of the amendments. They were the same that Mr. Friedman saw. So that's why we felt comfortable proceeding.
well, I was also in receipt of that letter. And it says, as of the writing, the draft ordinance language proposed is not in the public domain or in the board packet. And I talked about this because he was aware of her, Ms. Golan's being out of town as well as his own, which is why he and I talked that I would be keeping an eye on it and take a look at it as soon as the packet emerged. And again, I know, which is why I made phone calls. Again, I'm not accusing anybody of nefarious means. I would like to have been able to report to my colleague, Sid, that I had seen the language. I thought I'd made a good faith effort to do so. But again, trying to keep track of everybody's summer schedules can be a little challenging. Where can I see what you agreed to and voted on today?
Hi, Catherine, it's Jody. So it was posted this morning. Today is my first day back. When I saw it wasn't posted, I asked it to get posted immediately. Is your mic on? It starts on page 106. I don't know if you heard that, Catherine.
Okay,
Current. It is the exact same language that I sent to Sid back in July that he had no objections to. So you don't make any changes. There's It is what it is at this point. The board already made a motion and moved forward. So if you want to review it and you have questions, please, or concerns, please feel free to reach out to me and we'll see if we can fix whatever it is that you have concerns about in the future, if that makes sense.
Okay, because I checked it last night. I've been checking the packet on a daily basis, so I didn't check it again this morning because it takes too long to load, but I appreciate your response here. But again, if I can find the language and it matches what Sid told me to look for, I'm good. But again, I would ask that in the future, when these kinds of schedule issues come up, please defer to the side of broadest possible dissemination of information. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so going back into announcements. The only other one I had was just to acknowledge the Yamhill County Sheriff's Office, Mac PD, Mac Fire for the multi-agency active shooter MCI training that's going on this week. That was all three commissioners were there on Tuesday. And half of our team was being trained Tuesday. The other half will be trained tomorrow. So the community can expect to see some more activity tomorrow at Dunaway Middle School. But that was a very impressive training. Quite emotional in some ways. It's very odd to be training for something like that. Hopefully it never happens, but I'm glad that they are finally able to come together after months of planning and preparation to have everybody train for something like that, especially involving our medical community to know how to respond, not just immediately, but in the aftermath. So
This is something that Dr. John Heiser has been lobbying for through our ASA for years. And I want a special note of gratitude to Yamhill County Sheriff's Captain Sam Elliott, who really put his heart and soul into this, not only the training, but making sure that the commissioners and everybody else who needed to know exactly what was going on took us through all of the exercises. And it really is, when you see the level of risk involved for law enforcement, for medical personnel, MAC Fire, YCOM, our sheriff's deputies, it was really impressive. And I just, again, many thanks to Captain Elliott for the investment in this project.
absolutely.
And I just also want to say that Northwest Senior and Disability Services, which services the disability services and senior services for a 5-county region, including Yamhill County, they're going to be buying an additional building in Salem. And that is to house adult protective services, because unfortunately, when there is elder abuse or any kinds of those issues that need to be investigated, it is the adult protective services staff that does that. So we took a tour with the other commissioners from the other counties on Monday and looked at that, and also happy to report that for those who have disability issues or access issues, the post office can be really challenging, but there are no requirements for ADA accessibility. And that is because the Department of Agriculture, who regulates the post office, has no requirements. So we have some folks working on that. It's challenging for folks trying to get to the post office. And also the DMV handicap parking permit. If you wind up getting one from your doctor, you have to go down to DMV and actually get the actual placard, which is really hard for people who are in the hospital and disabled. So we're getting a group working on that. And also, finally, we've had our third Yamhill County Senior Advisory Council position, Helen Anderson. So we are up to speed on that. And again, the work done by Northwest Seniors, I don't think folks realized when there's an issue in the county with an elderly person, And they're also going to be working on risk intervention for seniors in terms of the homeless population. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. And say happy birthday to Chair Burschauer on Sunday.
Thank you. It's not an exciting one. No, it's not on the agenda. Forbidden. Okay, any further announcements? Moving on from that. Okay, if there's nothing else for the good of the order, I will adjourn the Yamaha County Board of Commissioners formal session for August 10th, 2023. It is 10:51.